first burnout's complete. Jeff Lefebvre brings up the 1986 Camaro, sporting 350 cubic inches of Chevy motor under the hood for the Stir Enterprises design flooring machine. Going up against Neil Cuthbertson with a 97 Chevy out of Alder Grove. Jeff racing out of Quesnel. And something going awry with the trees. So we're going to back both cars out and give them another chance. And the culprit could very well be a timing sensor, as we are hearing, so we're going to back both pairs out of the water box and swing on up to take a look, see what's what. So once again, the reason for the quick downtime is due to a sensor up at the quarter mile getting on the fritz just as the first pair of National Tire Wholesale Pro had gotten into the staging beams. And of course, that sensor being out is obviously a problem because that means you can't get an accurate time, but perhaps more importantly, the tree can't come down, and given that we qualified this class off of reaction time, that's a slight problem. But it does look like that has been resolved, so cars fire up, and we will once again bring Jeff Lefebvre with the 350 cubic inch 1986 Chevy Camaro, sponsored by Stir Enterprise and Design Floor, into the TCS side. While Neil Cuthbertson brings his 1997 454 cubic inch Chevy pickup truck into the Norco side. So take two on trying to get our pro bracket class underway for 2025. We thank everybody for your patience as we worked out the technical glitch. And we're underway. 1-0 on the tree for Lefebvre, Cuthbertson, 019 to the good. And these guys racing all the way to the quarter mile. Lefebvre going to get their second 5 thou. We'll take it to Neil Cuthbertson, goes 11.77 at about 13. While Lefebvre, also at about 13, goes 11.68. Tippy gets there first, 10.48, 125 miles an hour. His opponent, 10.98 at 120. We'll take up the next pairing. It is Steve Baskerville. Used to run a 2-liter Volkswagen Golf. However, throughout most of last year and seemingly kicking off 2025, he is moving up to a 5-liter 2022 Mustang out of West Vancouver, going up against Richard Love, driver out of the Soyuz, with the Reflection Guest Houses and SS Motorsports 1989 S10, sporting 383 cubic inches of Chevy motor under the hood. Soft launch for Baskerville, 0.68 on the tree, while Love was 0.57, and Love clocks in 11.74, 112 miles an hour. Baskerville, 12.68 at 115. And that brings up Deborah Dalton with a 1979 Chevy Impala with 454 cubic inches of big block Chevy motor under the hood, racing against Cassie Tippy in the Nova Wagon, 65. Top end of the racetrack, Deborah goes 11.57, 115 miles an hour. Cassie Tippy goes 11.61 at 114. Brendan Piskacek, sorry, going racing in the Buick Racing and Motoring Canada with Thomas, 90s Ford Mustang, against Dell Northgraves for Ritchie Racing Engines with a 414 small block Chevy 77 Nova. That Nova still has pep in its step as it's going to take off straight down Farmer Lane. Top end of the racetrack, 10.36, 128 miles an hour. Piskacek goes 13.16 at 101. Next one up, nothing on file yet for the pickup over here, Tower side. but it is Terry Hoogstens with his 66 Chevrolet over on the far side. .081 to an .037. Terry Hoogstens will go 1185, 111 miles an hour. His opponent, 1220 and a 109. Pay attention in the pits, attention in the pits. Heads up for those that have made into the quilt draw. The winner is Andy Klosky. Klosky, you've won yourself a quilt. You can go see Yvette Jacobson to pick up your prize. Once again, Andy Klosky, you have won the Team on a Mission quilt. You can go get your prize over at Yvette Jacobson's pit. Dennis Winton and Brian Prescott, the next pair up, lost in time. Belair goes over 31 red. Over to the good is Prescott's S10. 1021, 130 miles an hour. Prescott goes 1009 at about 32. Nothing on file for the primer time machine over here, tower side. It is Dylan Scott for the Baja North Lorca Auto Parts Advanced Driving and Lorca Auto Parts Chevelle. Cars off and away. 011 red on the tree for the car in the left lane. Right lane goes 1015 at 128. Left lane is 1073 at 120. Bring up Ron Thibault, racing the 468 cubic inch Chevelle from 1967, going up against John DeBacker, the Rad Torque Systems Titanium Honda Group 89 S10. Back goes 1044, 106 miles an hour. Tip goes 1113 at 120. Attention in the pits. Vancouver Car Wrap Sportsman, we need you to the lanes, please. Back once again, Vancouver Car Wrap Sportsman, we need you to the lanes. Sportsman to the lanes for first round of qualifying. Rad Torque Systems Super Pro, you are on standby. Rad Torque Systems Super Pro, this is your standby call. Loren Schwartz finishing to the top 10 of the points last season in the Titanium Auto Group and Bubba Speed Shop Lights Pro 1983. Racing John Barrichello, the 67 Dodge. Schwartz, 1003, 133 miles an hour. Barrichello, 1149 at $1.16. And how about Ralph Ehlers with the Junkyard Dog Mustang? Going up against Mike Render for Fountain Tire Chilliwack, Fortin's Lorca Auto Parts, and AFD Petroleum with the 85 6-liter LS Chevy S10. Huge red light for Ralph Ehlers. Almost 3/10 red on the tree, and I think that caught Mike Render out because he went 009 red on the tree immediately after. Ehlers goes 1064, 125 miles an hour. Render goes 1079 at $1.18. Bring up Matt Warner with the wheel standing. Linden Service Center, 1966. Plymouth coming up from Sumas, Washington, going up against Steve Watkins with a 2018 5-liter Ford. Watkins making the trip all the way out from Hillsboro, Oregon. Bit of cleanup going on after Ralph Ehlers' junkyard dog Mustang Fox body took off down the racetrack on the tower side. Potentially leaving a little bit of debris behind. Guess this is a good time as ever to remind drivers, if you're running a street car, no AC, please, as that leaves one on the racetrack, and make sure that your wheel wells, fenders, and tires are clear of loose stones, gravel, dirt, what have you, when you make your way on up to the staging lanes. Oh! Well, Matt, you left a little early on that one. Steve Watkins will go to the top end, 11.99, 115 miles an hour. The way that Warner wanted to kick his 2025 campaign off, but still got another hit. Should be able to get that turned around, hopefully. Mal Patterson brings up the Albion Tireland Maple Ridge Express Care and Valvoline Oils 1968 Malfunction Acadian. Racing against Rich Dyes with the Transporter Logistics 1973 Chevy Nova. Drive out of Maple Ridge here, going up against a competitor out of Poco. And now some cleanup taking place in the right-hand lane after Steve Watkins went down track. Mount Patterson's Acadian loves to get up on that wheelie bar. So this, if it launches well, should be a pretty easy wheels up launch. That's the way. How about that? Trip zip with the 5 on the tree for Mal Patterson. Our first trip zip of the season. Not quite a quad zip, but that's a tough number one qualifying reaction time to beat. He'll follow it up with a 10.02, 132 miles an hour. Rich Dyes goes 11.20 at $1.19. So Mal Patterson rockets to the number one qualifying spot, and just about nothing shy of a perfect light can usurp that. So yet more prep going on over in the far side. Once again, if you're running the streetcar, your AC must be off. That AC generates water. Water on a racetrack equals no racing. You don't want to be the one that shuts us down for a little while we clean it up, do you? Waiting patiently behind the water box is multi-time winner last year, Craig Johnson. For the BC scale, Johnson's Customs Exhaust 1979 Malibu wagon. Racing against Rob Getz with the 2024 Ford F-150 out of Kamloops. striking the rear bumper down the track at about 60 feet. Never seen that Malibu wagon launch like that before. He'll go 10:59, 120 miles an hour. Rob X goes 11:66 at 120. Now, I saw that car picking the wheels up a little bit in the Friday test and tune yesterday, but never like that. Bring up Elijah Copeland with the 1981 Camaro out of Surrey, racing Sean Langley. Finally back for more with a good old Mustang. So the Pacific Raceway Sportsman Trek Champion looking action taking off. 13 to a 27 wide. Langley gets there first. He'll go 12 flat with a 3, 114 miles an hour. Copeland goes 12:42 at 107. And that'll bring up Ray Bollinger for the Just Mechanical A&A Customs 1963 Pontiac. You don't see many Pontiacs around anymore. That one still looks just as beautiful as it ever does every time it comes out here. He's facing off against top 10 finisher in the points last season, Ross Walker, running the Preston Chevrolet 1966 Chevy 2. So yet a little bit more spot cleanup after Elijah Copeland's run. But the cars will quickly be allowed to bump their way forward. Too light for an 054. Ross Walker out in front. He'll go 10:01, 131 miles an hour. Bollinger goes 10:53 at 124. Next pair up, Rob Monroe Jr. brings up the Winter Harbor Marina and RV Gibson Racing Transmissions, Horizon Paint and Auto Body 1969 Acadian. Facing off against the Cutlass on the far side. 050 to a 16 reaction time. Monroe Jr. goes 10:55 at 124. The Cutlass 10:71 at 99. And well, it wouldn't be a race weekend if we didn't see these guys pairing off and qualifying. Jim Benke bringing the Rad Torch Systems Titanium Auto Group, Bugs to the Excavating, Racing, Chris Stone, still the fourth defending champion, and looked like issues setting in for Banky off the hitch there on that one. Chris Stone runs out the back door, goes 10:04 and 131. Banky slow cruise goes 12:90 at 88 miles an hour. I might have gotten a little bit close to the center line there. Decided to not take the risk on the first qualifier of the afternoon. Bring up John Basinski with a 1970 Barracuda and Walter Johnson in the Chevelle. And Basinski way out in front. Both drivers go red. Basinski 10:78 at 119. Johnson with a 003 red light goes 11:32 at 110. Hey, there's Andy Klosky. Andy, I don't know if you got your radio on, but you want a quilt. Klosky running the Kevin's Wagon Design Flooring and Lorco Auto Parts 1981 Chevy facing off against Lucas Taggart with the Scat Pack Dodge. Klosky 10:59.103, and Taggart to the stripe goes 14.96 at 80 miles an hour. That'll bring up Nick Douglas, 2023 Sportsman Track Champion, running the 2023 Super B out of Lake Stevens, Washington. And this, I believe, will be the last car in National Tire Wholesale Pro Bracket. Uh-oh, looks like somebody was planning on making a hit and it hasn't gone their way, as you see an orange car stopped out here in front of the tower. Douglas, 011 red on the tree, goes 12-12-110. Daryl Tippy brings up the Horizon Paint and Auto Body 1962 Chevy 2. Racing Cassie Tippy in the 65 Nova Wagon. Old 33 to the good. Daryl, top end, goes 10.46, 126 miles an hour. Cassie Tippy goes 11.52 at 115. Bring up Richard Love. Bring up Ray Bollinger. The Reflections, Guest House, SS Motorsports S10. Goes up against the Just Mechanical A&A Customs Pontiac. .1048, 125 miles an hour. Love goes 11.61 at 115. And that brings up Steve Baskerville, running the 2022 5-liter Mustang, going up against Andy Klosky, running Kevin's Wagon for Design Flooring and Lorco Auto Parts with a 1981 Chevy. .006 right on the tree for Baskerville. Andy Klosky gonna go down track as well. 0.13 to the good. Klosky goes 12.46 at 104. Baskerville 12.54 at 115. From one Malibu wagon to another, we'll bring up Craig Johnson for the BC scale. Johnson's Customs Exhaust Machine alongside Lucas Taggart with a 1976 Plymouth Duster. Up high and the throttle wide over Craig Johnson, while Taggart goes quiet on the starting line. Johnson 10.55, 121 miles an hour. And we will be pushing Lucas Taggart's Duster out of the staging beams. Believe that to be Neil Cuthbertson waiting in the water box on the Lordco side. As problems set in for that beautiful Plymouth on the Lordco side of the racetrack. Tough break, not the way he was hoping to start his season. And no doubt going to be looking to, well, see if he can get that car back up in working order by eliminations. Dale Northgraves will be bringing it on up. Running the Ritchie Racing Engines 1977 Chevy Nova. And in fact, we will shut all cars off in the water box as some cleanup required down in the Lordco lane. So going to be on a quick hold. Shouldn't be too long, though, at least, and then we'll fire up Dale Northgraves and Neil Cuthbertson and get set to turn down the two Chevys down track. All right, we got the two Chevys fired up, and they will roll back into the staging beams. Goes 935 at 120. Next pairing up, Ron Thibault with the 1967 Chevelle at Lone Butte in the TCS side. Lordco side, it's John Basinski for the 1970s Plymouth Barracuda from Pitt Meadows. $10.99, 120 miles an hour for Thibaut. Basinski goes $10.84 at $119. For the next pair, it's Dylan Scott once again for the Baja North Lorco Auto Parts. Advanced dive into Lorco Auto Parts. Boy, Lorco twice in that one. 1970s Chevelle going against Dennis Winter for the Lost in Time Bel Air. Attention in the pits, attention in the pits. Vancouver Car Wrap Sportsman, we need you in the lanes. Vancouver Car Wrap Sportsman, this is your call to the lanes. Vancouver Car Wrap Sportsman to the lanes. Rat Torque Systems, Super Pro, you're on standby. Rich Dyes and John Tabak will race for the Transport Logistics Chevy Nova and the Rat Torque Systems Titanium Auto Group S10. Tabak, 1044, 127 miles an hour. Rich Dyes, 1103 at 119. And that brings up Brandon Piskacek. Buick Racing and Motor in Canada with Thomas Ford. Mustang Racing, Ross Walker with the Preston Chevrolet Chevy 2. Walker, 1001, 131 miles an hour. Piskacek goes 1320 at 101. How about Terry Hoogstens and Walter Johnson? Chevrolet versus Chevelle. Johnson, top end of the racetrack, goes 1111, 119. Hoogstens 1173 at 111. A lot of 11s on that pass. 111, 11.7, 11.11, 11.9 for the mile an hour. Bring up Brian Prescott, bring up Matt Warner. There's the wheels up walks we expect to see. Matt Warner, shown as always, he detests wheelie bars. The Linden Service Center Plymouth goes 1039 at $125. Brian Prescott takes his S10 to a 1009 at 132. A lot of S10s in this category. Mike Render brings up another one for Fountain Tire Chilliwack. Fortin's, Lorco Auto Parts, and AFD Petroleum. Racing Ralph Ehlers with the Junkyard Dog Mustang. Render going to go 1077 at $123. Ralph Ehlers goes 1068 at 121 miles an hour. Bring up Deborah Dalton with a 79 Impala, sporting that 454 cubic inch big block Chevy motor, racing against the Albion Tireland, Maple Ridge Express Care, and Valvoline Oils Malfunction Acadian. Patterson goes 1006, 131. Dalton goes 1265 at 78. And that brings up Nick Douglas and Ryan Ledre. Ledre could not get that car down track in Q1, but looking like he has managed to patch up the car that used to be that of Brody Shirk. So we'll see what the door slammer can do in this second qualifier for National Tire Wholesale Pro Bracket. Tuned up for full door slammer spec as Douglas going to go 12:09 at 111. Ledre goes 12:52 at 122. And once again, it's Chris Stone and Jim Banky. The Stone Cold Racing Willowbrook Motors Dodge Dart will race against the Bucky's Mini Excavating, Titanium Auto Group, and Rad Torque Systems Wheel Stand and Barracuda of Jim Banky. Next pair up, Jeff Lefebvre for Stir Enterprise and Design Flooring with a 1986 Camaro out of Quesnel. Attention in the pits, attention in the pits. We need Rad Torque Systems Super Pro to the lanes. Rad Torque Systems Super Pro, come on down for your second and last qualifier. Stand by, Mountain View Harley Davidson Motorcycles. Right. Well, one car, I believe, looks like left before the tree was ready. And problems swiftly set in for the other. An awkward launch. Oh boy. Well, when they break the jack out, you know it ain't ideal. So this might take a minute to remove that car, and then we'll allow Rob Monroe Jr. to make his pass to close it out. Once again, last checks. Going on down to the starting line. Looks like everything is pretty much good to go. So we're going to fire up Rob Monroe Jr. for the Winter Harbor Marina Gibson's Racing Transmissions, Horizon Paint and Autobody 1969 Acadian to close out the second qualifier National Tire Wholesale Pro Bracket. .1053, 124 miles an hour for Monroe Jr. All right, here they come underneath the tower. First round of National Tire Wholesale Pro Bracket. We'll start it off with Chris Stone for the Stone Cold Racing, Willowbrook Motors, Dodge Dart, dials in 1008 to Mike Renders, Fountain Tire, Chilliwack, Fortins, Lord Auto Parts, and AFD Petroleum, S10, dials in 1079. Stone, oh my goodness, 001 red on the tree for Chris Stone. Mike Render with a free pass in the next round as a heavy hitter is taken out early. Racing this Chevy pickup from 1997. Gas Dippy's Nova Wagon trying to stay out in front. 1091 to an 1154, and it'll be Cassie Tippy. Cuthbertson could not catch up. Bested on the tree by a tenth. Ralph Ehlers going to be moving on into the next round, as so far we have not had a single pass where we have not seen somebody breaking out on the elimination charts. Dylan Scott and Steve Baskerville the next pair up. Baja North Lower Auto Parts, Advanced Diving, and the 1970 Chevelle dials in 1017 to race the 5-liter Mustang of Steve Baskerville, dialed in at 1285. Two green lights. Scott trying to chase down Baskerville, top end of the racetrack. Double breakout. Baskerville got there first, but he's under by 210. Scott only under by 11 thou. Scott moves on. Next pair, John DeBack. The Rat Torch Systems Titanium Auto Group S10 dials in 1054. Steve Watkins and his 2018 Ford dials in at 12 seconds. Once again, pair of green bulbs. As the 2 chase down track and double breakout again to back. Moves on. Only 6th thou under the mark. Got there first by only 1/10,000th of a second. And Watkins broke out by too much. Dale Northgraves will take the Ritchie Racing Engines Nova, dialed in at 10:36 to race Richard Love for the Reflections Guesthouse SS Motorsports S10, dialed in at 11:68. We'll bring up Dale Northgraves. Once again, dials in. 1.3 seconds, just about quicker than Richard Love on the far side. Two red lights, but Richard Love worse by 1,000th of a second on the tree. It was 0.27 red to Northgraves is 0.26. That will give Dale Northgraves the win. Ron Thibault will be running 11 seconds in the 67 Chevelle against Dennis Winton for the Lost in Time Bel Air. Dials in at 10:35. Red light start for Ron. Dennis Winton takes the Lost in Time Bel Air to round 2. All right. So after an hour and a half, we will bring Andy Klosky and Brendan Piskacek into the water box. And our burnouts are complete. And our racing is back underway. Once again, it's the Malibu wagon, Kevin's wagon for Design Florida and Lorca Auto Parts over here, Tower Side, and a Buick Racing with Motor Canada with Thomas Mustang on the far side. Believe just shy of halfway through our first round of eliminations for National Tire Wholesale Pro Bracket. Klosky turns on the red light. Piskacek will move into the next round. Both drivers hitting the red bulb on that one. Klosky was worse. There we go. First or worst, rules say. Klosky takes that one. Nick Douglas dials in at 12-12. He'll face off against John McLean for the Falcon Off Racing 1969 Ford Falcon. Dials in 1097. Red light start for John McLean and Nick Douglas. With the whole shot out there, going to be moving on into another round. Bring up Craig Johnson for the BC Scale Johnson's Customs Exhaust Malibu wagon. Dials in 1060 against Ross Walker for the Prestige Chevrolet Chevy 2. Dials in at 1004. Walker in hot pursuit. Top end. How about that? Sixth down goes the way of Ross Walker, taking down a heavy hitter early. Next on up, Walter Johnson brings it up on the right-hand side with his 1972 Chevelle, dials into the 1110. Jesse Gard brings it on up in the pickup over on the tower side. So Jesse Gard chasing down Walter Johnson. Breakout for Johnson, was double away on the tree, had it one, but goes 5 thou under. So Jesse Gard moving on to the next round. That brings up the Linden Service Center, 1966 Plymouth, dialed in at 1043 with Matt Warner behind the wheel. To his right, dialed in at 1150 with the 2024 Ford F-150. It's Rob Getz. And another red light start. Matt Warner will move on to another one. A lot of red lights, a lot of breakouts in this first round of eliminations across the board on all classes. And again, you have to wonder how much the wind that has been changing directions has got something to do with it. Takes the Transport Logistics Chevy Nova to the next round. Next up, it's Jim Benke. Dials in 1010 with his Plymouth Barracuda. Brian Prescott dials in 1012 alongside him. Prescott will move on, and not a good start to Jim Benke. He was looking for a major improvement, and he's not going to find it this afternoon as Prescott takes him out in round one. That'll bring up Daryl Tippy, dials in 1049 for the Horizon Paint Chevy 2, racing against Deborah Dalton in the 79 Impala, dials in 1157. Mile. Tippy moves on, gets around Deborah Dalton. And now John Barrichello. 67 Dodge, dials in 1152, racing the 1970 Plymouth Barracuda on the far side, headed up by John Basinski, who dials in at 1083. Well, Barrichello got there first, but he breaks out. Went 11:46 on the 11:52 dial, gives it back to Basinski, who will move on to round two. Lorenz Schwartz will take the Titanium Auto Group up a speed shot 1983 Monte Carlo to dial in at 10:05, and dial in at 10:48 to his right. It's the Just Mechanical A&A Customs 1963 Pontiac of Ray Bollinger. Torch Super Pro. Final call for Sportsman Schwartz will take out Bollinger and moves on to round 2. Bring up Ryan Ledre for the Muffler Tech Auto 1966 Canso. Dials in 1190. Racing Rob Monroe Jr. for Winter Harbor Marina and RV. Gibson Racing Transmissions. Arrives to pay an auto body with a 1969 Acadian that dials in at 1055. Top end of the racetrack, Monroe out in front. Monroe for the win. Potential issues setting in for Ryan Ledre. He really has not been able to have a good run all day long, and well, with the 1239 and the 1190 dial, I have to imagine that something did not go to plan on that run. Bring up Nick Davey with his 1984 Cutlass, dials in at 1010 alongside Terry Hookstins. Dials in at 1182. So Davey versus Hookstins. Take it into the next round. Next pair up, Elijah Copeland will race his 1981 Camaro to dial in at 1236. Sean Langley will be running the Ford Escape. Problems setting in for the Mustang, so he is not going to be able to have a good run this afternoon, and that Ford Escape dialed in as maxed out as it can possibly be. That's one of those races where Langley just wanted to get the points. And looking like Mal Patterson should have the bye with the Albion Tireland Maple Ridge Express Care Valvoline Oils malfunction Acadian. And looking like now some more cleanup needing to be done. Hopefully not too much, particularly in the left lane. So I suspect possibly off of Elijah Copeland's 1981 Camaro. Start line crews are at work. This one, at least, doesn't look like it's down the whole track. We will start it off with Jesse Gard for the Lavish Landscapes Kelowna, 1982 S10, dialed in at 1199. Ralph Ehlers will bring out the Junkyard Dog, 6-liter LS Mustang, dials in at 1068. Start for Gard and Jesse Gard. Unfortunately, we'll have to pack up the Lavish Landscapes Kelowna S10 and be sent packing as Ralph Ehlers moves on to round 3. So Nick Douglas will be now up once again against Cassie Timpey. Modern versus the old. 1209 Charger going up against an 1154 Chevy Nova wagon. And that one's going to go the way of Cassie Timpey as Nick turns it red. We need Super Pro to the lanes. Super Pro to the lanes for a random elimination still. Once again, that is Super Pro. We need you to the lanes, and motorcycles coming up to lane 5. So Super Pro to the lanes and bikes to lane 5. That will put Hot Rod on standby. Ross Walker and John DeBack, the next pair up to Bear. Bear green ones. And John DeBack takes it on a double breakout. How about that? Ross Walker 001 to the good on the tree. DeBack only 001 under, while Walker was 026. So DeBack is into the 3rd round. That brings up Brian Prescott with his 2003 Chevy S10, dials in 1014 to race Matt Warner for the Linden Service Center Plymouth, dials in at 1046. Red light start for Brian Prescott puts him behind Matt Warner in the elimination ladder. Mal Patterson will be going up against Rich Dyes, the malfunction Acadian for Albion Thailand, Maple Ridge Express Care, and Valvoline Oils, dials in at 1009, while Dyes takes the Transporters Logistics Nova to an 1109. Two green balls, and at the corner, it'll be Patterson. Moving on once again, great job there. Takes out Rich Dyes, and that leaves Mike Render and John Basinski to go up against one another. The Fountain Tire, Fortin's Local Auto Parts, and AFD Petroleum S10, dials in at 1082 to John Basinski's 1970 Plymouth Barracuda, down at 1083. Corner mile mark, a win line for John Basinski. As Mike Render got there first, but breaks out by over half a tenth. Next up, it's the Baja North Lorco Auto Parts Advanced Diving. 1970 Chevelle of Dylan Scott dials in 1015 compared to Brandon Piskacek. For the Buick Racing and Motor Canada with Thomas, Ford Mustang dials in at 1315. Dylan Scott was only 1 thou off his dial, but with him being down by 300ths on the tree, it didn't matter. Piskacek moves on by 13. Bring up Del North Graves and Lorenz Schwartz. The Ritchie Racing Engines Nova dials in at 1034 compared to Schwartz for the Titanium Auto Group Bubba Speed Shop Monte Carlo. Dials in at 1006. Another breakout. This one for Del North Graves will hand another win off to Lorenz Schwartz. Next up, we've got Nick Davey. Dials in at 1010 for the 1984 Cutlass. He'll go up against Rob Monroe Jr. with the Winter Harbor Marina and RV Gibson Racing's transmission, Horizon Paint and Auto Body, 1969 Acadian running at a 1056. Rob Monroe Jr., will be moving on into round number 3 of Pro Bracket Eliminations, as will Daryl Tippy, both drivers. Some pretty good lights. 012 for Tippy. It was a trip zip with a 6 for Monroe Jr. Nick Davey and Elijah Copeland both sent packing. Ralph Ehlers will now go up against Mal Patterson. Red light start for Ehlers, and Patterson is going to be out on a tear. Attention to the pits, attention to the pits. Super Pro, now you can make your way on down to the lane. Super Pro, come on down to the lanes to the ladder. And we'll also get the motorcycle finalists up here as well. So motorcycle, come on down as well. Matt Warner moves on as Cassie Tippy turns on the red light. So with Tippy going red, Warner moves on. And now it's John Basinski and Lorenz Schwartz. right start for John Basinski and Lorenz Schwartz. Will take the wing light into round number 4. So next up, Brandon Piskacek, running the Buick Racing Motor Canada with Thomas Machine. Dials in at 13:15, while Daryl Tippy for Horizon Paint in the Chevy 2 dials in at 10:53. Top end of the racetrack, it is Daryl Tippy who is going to be moving on into the next round. John DeBack and Rob Monroe Jr. are going to be the next pair up, 10:44 to a 10:54. And by 9 thousandths of a second, John DeBack will take out Rob Monroe Jr. Was down at the tree, but only 7 thou off the dial, and that will translate into a great package. Moves on to the next round. Tire Wholesale Pro Bracket. John DeBack brings up the Rad Torque Systems Titanium Auto Group S10. He dials in at 10:42. Meanwhile, Mal Patterson dials in 10:04 for the Malfunction Acadian for Albion Thailand, Maple Ridge Express Care, and Valvoline Oils. Attention in the pits, attention in the pits. Super Pro, we need Super Pro to the lanes. Super Pro, come on down to the lanes. Super Pro to the lanes. Top end, DeBack goes to the final. As Patterson goes 10:43 on the 10:04, John DeBack has taken out another, and he is into the final round for National Tire Wholesale Pro Bracket. Meanwhile, Lorenz Schwartz and Daryl Tippy will be up next for the Titanium Auto Group, Bubba Speed Shop Monte Carlo. Oh, sorry, into the semifinals. Not into the finals, into the semifinals for John DeBack. With Daryl Tippy dialed in at 10:52 for the Horizon Chip 2. Tippy turns on the red line by 4 foul. Red Shorts being followed pretty good. He is sent packing. And then Matt Warner will have the bye. spin of the wheels for Matt Warner.
This will bring us into our National Tire Wholesale semifinals. We got John Tabak in the left lane, taking on Matt Warner in the right lane. John Tabak dialed in with a 1042, Matt with a 1068. John driving that little 89 S10. Matt in the wheel stand in 1966 Plymouth. Oh. My bad. That's a Ford. I should know better than that. Warner with a little bit of wheel spin off the line, causing some issues. And John Tabak moving on, taking the win, going 1050 on the 1042. Tabak was 011 on the tree. Warner was 025, going 1082 on the 1068. Which will bring up our bye, Lorenz Schwartz, who looks like he's just going to stage that thing, break the beams. Rolling under the bridge, coming into the water box. We got John Tabak in the left lane, taking on Lorenz Schwartz in the right lane. John Tabak dialed in with a 1040 in the TCS lane. Lorenz with a 1003 in the Lordco lane. John Tabak looking to take home a win. First race of the season, taking on Lorenz there. Both very seasoned competitors at this track. Won a lot of races. And both guys just absolutely drill the tree. It's going to be a close one. Lorenz taking the win on a double breakout, going 10.00 with a 9 on the 10.03. Lorenz 008 on the tree. John 002 on the tree, going 10.36 with a 4 on the 10.40. So Lorenz Schwartz is your National Tire Wholesale winner today, taking home the win on a double breakout. Congratulations, Lorenz. And that brings us to the end of the program.